here's what's coming up tonight on Inside City Hall.
This is not an austerity budget, but it is a disciplined one.
Governor Kathy Hochul today unveiled her record-breaking state budget proposal amid the loss of billions of dollars in federal aid. Our Bernadette Hogan will join us from Albany with the details.
I am in support of abolishing ICE.
It was another busy day for Mayor Mamdani, who denounced President Trump's immigration crackdown and joined the picket line with thousands of nurses on strike across the city.
So what these members of Congress are doing is illegal. It's called insider trading. They're not supposed to be buying or selling stocks based on non-public information.
And Senator Gillibrand will join me in studio for a wide-ranging discussion, including her new proposal to ban members of Congress from stock trading. For the best news, debate, and analysis of New York politics, join us inside City Hall. Welcome to Inside City Hall for Monday. I'm Errol Lewis. Governor Kathy Hochul today unveiled her $260 billion spending plan that had no significant tax hikes in a year in which she's trying to get reelected. Hochul pointedly called out President Donald Trump's billions of dollars in cuts to health insurance, while also reiterating that she does not need to heed to pressure from Mayor Mamdani to raise taxes on wealthy New Yorkers. Our State House reporter Bernadette Hogan joins me now with tonight's top story from inside the Capitol building. Good evening, Bernadette.
Good evening, Errol. And this blueprint basically lays out the governor's spending priorities over the next year, but also provides her some cover to push back on some of those pressures that she has already faced from Mamdani when it comes to the tax hike, free buses, and then also lets her hold the line a little bit when it comes to the federal government.
This is not an austerity budget, but it is a disciplined one.
Revealing her $260 billion state spending plan Tuesday, Governor Kathy Hochul wanted to make it clear all her plans to fund childcare, education, and health care are doable without raising taxes.
And we're doing it while still protecting taxpayers. Once again, there are no income taxes.
The moderate Democrat is also up for re-election next year, citing better than predicted Wall Street returns, specifically singling out the tech industry.
New York State is receiving over $17 billion in revenue over the next 2 years that exceeds our earlier projections. That's $17 billion from high-income earners, from record Wall Street bonuses, and from an economy that's booming again.
Contrasting Mayor Zohran Mamdani's preferred approach, a new state income tax hike on the wealthiest New Yorkers. Following Hochul's nearly 30-minute speech in Albany and blaming Mayor Eric Adams for leaving him with a $12 billion budget hole to fix, in a statement, Mamdani said, quote, "We reject austerity politics. Working New Yorkers should not have to pay the price for the failures of the Adams administration." Mamdani also added, quote, "It is time to ask New York City's wealthiest and large corporations to pay their fair share, while also working toward a fiscal relationship with the state that better reflects New York City's status as the economic engine of the state." Hochul responding.
Now, he's doing his job as a mayor who is supposed to advocate for their community. I've served a long time in local government. I have no problem with someone making a strong case to us.
Taking aim at President Donald Trump.
Donald Trump declared war on states. Federal funds in this budget are down roughly $10.3 billion.
Highlighting a growing multi-billion-dollar Medicaid budget and cuts to health insurance for over 1 million New Yorkers.
But we will not shift costs onto families or leave vulnerable communities without a lifeline the way Washington has. That's not who we are.
State lawmakers responding.
And I don't see a whole lot that is going to make New Yorkers feel like their lives are getting more affordable.
The governor has a way of finding the resources to do that outside of raising revenues. We're all ears. But the important thing is to make child care more affordable.
Now, the governor still has to get this passed through the state legislature, the state senate, and the state assembly, and that due date is usually April 1st. However, the governor and the legislature have consistently missed that deadline over the past couple of years. Again, they will be negotiating how exactly to pay for all these priorities, and there could be some changes too, like additional funding cuts from the federal government. Errol?
So now, Bernadette, on this question of raising taxes on high-income New Yorkers, something I know you know, but let's share it with the viewers, is pretty much every year the legislature suggests, a bill comes forward suggesting that taxes be raised on wealthy New Yorkers, and it goes to committee and pretty much dies there.
Right. Every year it's suggested by the state Senate and the Assembly because they're able to also prepare their own budgets and kind of provide a counteracting force to the governor's executive proposal. Typically, they say it's easier just to raise taxes and then have a whole pot of money estimated to spend on either new items or existing priorities. But this year, when I kind of took a poll with some of the lawmakers that were in the room afterwards, some Democrats that have supported raising taxes in the past, some of them appear to be taking a page from Mamdani's book. They say, listen, we support that, but at the end of the day, if we're able to get the money elsewhere, if the governor's not cutting programs, she's not cutting funding, then we'd be on board with going along with the no new taxes, at least for now.
Okay, thanks very much, Bernadette. Mayor Zohran Mamdani was in a fighting mood today as he called for the abolition of the Department of Immigration and Customs Enforcement and also joined nurses who were striking for better working conditions and pay. Our Kelly Mena joins us now with more details. Good evening, Kelly.
Good evening, Errol. And Mayor Mamdani promised to be every New Yorker's mayor, and that's exactly what he did on Tuesday, standing by immigrants and striking nurses.
I am in support of abolishing ICE.
Mayor Zohran Mamdani is unhappy with the immigration enforcement in the city and across the country. In an interview with The View on Tuesday, Mamdani joined the call to abolish U.S. immigration and customs enforcement.
I'm tired of waking up every day and seeing a new image of someone being dragged out of a car, dragged out of their home, dragged out of their life. What we need to see is humanity. And there is a way to care about immigration in this city and in this country with a sense of humanity.
In a statement, a spokeswoman for ICE said that some of the agency's arrests have taken serious criminals off the street, adding, while Mayor Mamdani, Governor Hochul, and their sanctuary politicians across the state have released nearly 7,000 criminal illegal aliens from their jails into New York communities, ICE law enforcement is arresting criminals and saving countless American lives. Mayor Mamdani should be thanking our law enforcement for removing these dangerous criminals from his city, vilifying law enforcement. New York City has become a hotspot in the Trump administration's immigration crackdown, citing the need to take violent, undocumented individuals off city streets. But caught in the dragnet have been New Yorkers showing up to routine immigration appointments. Further complicating the issue is President Trump's recent threats to withhold billions of dollars in federal funds to sanctuary cities and states like New York. Mamdani took shots at Trump, saying he's playing politics with the city's funds.
We're talking about people whose crime simply seems to be being in New York City. And if they were to make good on this threat, it would rip the civic fabric of the city apart.
From immigrants to healthcare workers, Mayor Mamdani joined the nurses' strike earlier in the day.
This is about a fair contract. This is about dignity. And today is day 9. Day 9 of those demands.
The people of this country are sick and tired of the greed in the healthcare industry.
Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders also joined the picket line at Mount Sinai West amid the freezing temperatures. Thousands of nurses across 3 private hospital systems, Mount Sinai, New York Presbyterian, and Montefiore, have been on strike since January 12th to demand higher pay, safer work conditions, and expanded healthcare benefits.
Today we say to those hospitals, sit down and negotiate a decent contract.
A strike is an act of last resort. What workers want is to be back at work. So what this will mean is making that possible.
And no deal as of Tuesday has been struck between the nurses union and those 3 private hospital systems, Errol.
And those 3 are not the whole sum of it, right? I mean, not every nurse that works at a private hospital is on strike right now.
No, it's just the one at Mount Sinai, New York Presbyterian, and Montefiore. It seems that negotiations as of today have stalled a bit, similar to how cold the weather is. It's a frosty relationship between them. But they were hoping, especially the nurses, bringing in high-profile Senator Bernie Sanders and the mayor would be able to push those bargaining and negotiation discussions along for themselves.
Okay, thanks, Kelly. We are going to take a break now, and when we come back, as President Trump threatens to pull funding from so-called sanctuary cities, we'll take a closer look at what New Yorkers can expect from year 2 of his second term in office. Stay with us.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Spectrum TV, isn't that only live TV?
No, it's only all my favorite streaming apps with live TV.
Okay.
It's only all included at no extra cost. And that's the magic of math. Will this be on the test? Sure. Why not?
It's only one simple payment for all our TV. We gotta simplify and win. Winning is equally important.
If not, more so.
Yeah!
Only Spectrum TV, fixed TV.
I'm Sandra, this is Jorge, and we were adopted in 2019. I remember when they first came to us, Michael was already a teenager. The whole cliche of, they're so lucky to have you guys, and it's the other way around. They have changed our family for the better. They chose to love us. They didn't have to. They chose us. Family.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. President Trump held a lengthy White House briefing earlier today to mark 1 year since he was sworn in as president. Trump's second term has transformed many federal policies, the impact of which is being felt deeply here in the 5 boroughs. Our Ayanna Harry joins me now with a closer look. Good evening, Ayanna.
Good evening, Errol. During that lengthy press briefing, President Trump held up a thick book telling reporters it lists all the accomplishments his administration has been able to make on behalf of the American people within the last year. But for many New Yorkers, this has been a year of concern over tariffs and immigration enforcement.
These are accomplishments. We have a lot of accomplishments, and as you know, this is the anniversary.
The first year of President Donald Trump's second term in the White House.
So help me God. So help me God.
Brought sweeping changes. Changes felt internationally in Washington and right here in New York City.
It's been an amazing period of time.
During the Biden administration, more than 200,000 migrants arrived in New York City seeking services. On day one of his return to the presidency, Trump declared a national emergency at the border as new arrivals in the city dropped dramatically. But the rise of the Trump administration's crackdown on immigration led to local protests throughout the last year, from the hallways of 26 Federal Plaza to Canal Street.
You should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed.
Another key item on the Trump agenda, reducing the size of the federal budget and cutting funding sent to states. In February, the White House clawed back $80 million from city bank accounts meant to pay for migrant housing without notice.
We have reached out to the White House. We want to find out exactly what took place.
And Trump's tariffs added up to uncertainty and a new reality for many families, not just across New York City, but throughout New York State.
The average family in New York is paying $4,200 more because of the tariffs. The tariffs have not been good for this state.
Also in the last year, as the race for New York City mayor began to heat up, the president's year one policies became a heated flashpoint on the campaign trail, with Democrat Zora Mamdani becoming a frequent critic of the president.
Turn the volume up!
Before taking office, the new mayor visited the White House, and Mamdani recently revealed he stayed in touch with President Trump in hopes of being able to advocate directly with the president on behalf of the city. Tuesday, during a lengthy White House press briefing, President Trump touted his first-year accomplishments while protesters spoke out against his policies, including directly across from Trump Tower in Manhattan. And in this second Trump administration so far, we have seen an escalation of the political tension between the president and the state attorney general, Letitia James, with Trump-aligned prosecutors attempting several times to indict James after James brought a civil fraud case against Trump here in New York City. Errol.
You know, it's hard to compare cities, but we look at what's going on in a place like Minneapolis, where they're really getting the brunt of a lot of recent attention, as well as cities like Chicago and Los Angeles, where troops were actually mobilized. Relatively speaking, New York maybe is kind of getting off easy.
Maybe getting off easy. We have seen a few moments, and I'm thinking back particularly to that protest on Canal Street where there was a military-type presence from ICE, and New Yorkers, you know, we saw people who were just headed home from work become activated and decide to protest. We've seen that here and there on a few instances here in New York City, but certainly not day in and day out the way it's been seen in Minneapolis or in Los Angeles.
And again, hard to make comparisons, but with the weather as cold as it is, the protests seem to be maybe a little bit thin, but that could be a factor of a function of the weather as much as anything, right?
Well, I mean, look at Minneapolis. It's pretty chilly there right now, and people are certainly out. I think we just haven't seen a military-looking force throughout New York City the way people have seen it in Minneapolis. And also, this is a much bigger city, so I think at times when there are ICE agents out in communities, it takes a little bit of time for word to really get around to people, for people to be able to show up and protest. But 26 Federal Plaza has certainly become a magnet for people who are looking to speak out against the Trump policies.
Indeed, and the weather will get warmer. Thanks very much, Ayanna. Let's take a short break now. When we come back, as President Trump continues to demand a U.S. takeover of Greenland, we'll take a closer look at how European leaders are pushing back on his threats. Stay with us.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the latest news and in-depth interviews of the hottest shows on and off Broadway. So grab a seat, because this is a show you won't want to miss. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 p.m. for Onstage.
On Stage is presented by your Tri-State Cadillac dealers. Discover which Cadillac is right for you and elevate your journey.
It's only a hike. It's only made possible by Spectrum Business connecting healthcare providers of all sizes. Like hospitals relying on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network with industry-leading reliability. Practices keeping patient data safe with advanced security. Pharmacies accessing records in the cloud without fail. It's tailored connectivity solutions built for life-changing moments. It's only a hike. It's only everything. Spectrum Business.
Mom was always organized, but she started forgetting to pay her bills on time.
And she'd buy the same gifts over and over.
Telling the girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was really hard.
At first, we had our cries, but then we were like, okay, let's make a plan.
Early detection gave us time to adapt together.
It's so important for you to think about what you can do and making the most of what you have.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together.
From my time growing up in Queens watching New York One to my time reporting here, I've seen how quickly a story can change. At News All Day, we bring you the news as it's happening, from around the boroughs to local government to your neighborhood, because our city never stops moving.
Hi, I'm Shannon Ferry with the day's developing stories, but first,
stay up to date and informed with News All Day, weekdays from noon to 4.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. President Donald Trump is headed to Switzerland tonight for the World Economic Forum, where his demands for a U.S. takeover of Greenland is likely to dominate discussions. In a series of social media posts, the president has continued to press his gambit for Greenland and has not ruled out the use of force, which has stoked anxiety and concern in Western European capitals. Shannon Ryan in our Washington, D.C. bureau joins me now with the very latest. Good evening, Shannon.
Good evening to you, Errol. Yes, the president's actions have certainly shifted the agenda for this event, seemingly transforming it into a high-stakes diplomatic meeting. Today, in a briefing, which was very long, he told reporters he has several meetings regarding Greenland scheduled to take place in Switzerland. President Donald Trump is ramping up his pressure campaign for a U.S. acquisition of Greenland, posting this AI image online showing him planting a U.S. flag on the Danish territory, heightening tensions as he prepares to meet with European leaders in Davos, Switzerland on Wednesday.
How far are you willing to go to acquire Greenland?
You'll find out.
President Trump is threatening to impose new tariffs on goods from 8 Western European countries that showed recent military support for Greenland, unless a deal is struck for U.S. acquisition of the resource-rich Arctic territory, something he says is necessary for U.S. security and success.
I don't think they're going to push back too much. Look, we have to have it. They have to have this done. They can't protect it.
However, Western leaders gathering in Davos are pushing back. French President Emmanuel Macron criticized Trump's latest tariff threats.
From the United States of America, through trade agreements that undermine our export interests, demand maximum concessions, and openly aim to weaken and subordinate Europe.
President Trump shared screenshots of what appear to be private texts about Greenland, including this exchange with the French president. Macron wrote that he does not understand what the president is doing on Greenland and asked he meet in Paris on Thursday. And that same day, European leaders plan to meet again in Brussels to discuss potential retaliations to the president's proposed tariffs. Errol.
And Shannon, is Greenland the only thing that's going to be on the agenda? I believe the president is also talking about other land acquisitions lately.
Errol, he most certainly is. Overnight, the president also weighed in on the UK's decision to return the Chagos Islands, which are in the Indian Ocean, to Mauritius. One of those islands is home to a key U.S.-UK military base. Under the agreement, the countries must now pay Mauritius more than $100 million each year to continue leasing the island where that base is located. Trump says the decision is stupid, calling it an act of weakness, he says, is noticed by China and Russia, adding that he feels it's another reason Greenland must be, quote, acquired. Errol.
Okay, thanks very much, Shannon. We are going to take a short break now. When we come back, I'll be joined by Senator Gillibrand to talk about a bill that she has sponsored aimed at banning lawmakers from trading stocks. That and much more is straight ahead. Stay with us.
My time at New York One has shown me that in the city that never sleeps, the news never stops. So as the day winds down, turn to the rush hour.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica Burke.
To catch up on the stories that matter across the 5 boroughs, with in-depth interviews from the city's newsmakers, plus the latest forecast. Catching you up with today, preparing you for tomorrow. Right here on the Rush Hour. Weekdays from 4 to 7 p.m.
It's only a slice. It's only made possible by Spectrum, connecting businesses of all sizes, like small businesses, instantly serving up orders and inventory on the Spectrum Fiber broadband network. And factories, seamlessly connecting to farmers in the field with tailored solutions that always deliver. It's only a slice. It's only everything. Get your business free fiber-powered internet forever. Call to find out how.
I'm Chris Jakomick. I served in the United States Air Force, and I deployed 3 times. So in 2017, I was serving as an Air Force First Sergeant. Our motto in that role is, my job is people, everyone is my business. But unfortunately in that year, I would lose my own brother, Lance Corporal Adam Jakomick, to suicide. The majority of veteran suicides are from guns. I store my weapons securely, not only for myself, but for my family. My service never stops.
At Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our New York City community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. As the midterm elections continue to take shape, New York lawmakers based in Washington are pushing back on President Trump's threats of funding cuts and running campaigns focused on affordability and rooting out corruption. My next guest has introduced a bill that would ban lawmakers from trading stocks and is now calling on President Trump to reverse a decision to freeze child care funding on New York over what he calls fraud concerns. Here to talk about child care and much more is Senator Gillibrand. Welcome back to the program. Great to see you.
Thank you, Errol.
Let's start actually with some of the headlines that everybody's seeing. The ICE raids in Minneapolis and elsewhere. Are Democrats in the Senate preparing a strategy to demand some kind of accountability there?
They are. I mean, what's happened in Minnesota and around the country is horrific. It's inhumane. It's immoral. And I think President Trump is really undermining the rule of law. He is treating people in the most inhumane way possible. And his forces just murdered a woman in Minnesota. So it's very concerning. And we're going to try to provide the oversight and accountability over the Trump administration. And we are going to do everything we can to keep our communities safe.
You're an attorney as well as a senator. You use the word murder. Is that, you use that word in a considered way?
Well, it will be absolutely investigated, and we need to make sure that the Minnesota law enforcement can do that investigation properly. I'm just looking at it like every other American looks at it, and I don't think that was self-defense. She was driving away. She said kind words to the man. She was not being aggressive, and he used deadly force. I think it's highly problematic, and there should be a full investigation in Minnesota and, if necessary, in Congress.
Over and over, we see people being seized, snatched, faceless people who don't identify themselves, smash through a window, take people away. We don't know where or why. They're getting U.S. citizens. They're getting Native Americans. They're getting people who clearly are not supposed to be subjected to a deportation campaign. And there's sort of no apology from the administration or any backing down at all. Are Democrats going to, I guess, campaign on the idea of stopping that? Because there seems to be a lot of momentum in the direction of these raids and not much pushback that we can see.
Oh, there's enormous pushback. I mean, there's been protests all across America. And the dehumanization of our community members, of American citizens, of people we know and love, is constant. It doesn't mean Democrats aren't going to fight for public safety and fight for comprehensive immigration reform and fight for a secure border. They will. But I think Americans do not like this inhumane treatment. They don't like the abrogation of basic civil rights and civil liberties. They don't like what's happening to American citizens and our families, and they don't like the brutality that is being used. And I think there's this effort to create a false choice. There is not a false choice. We can have laws. We can have proper immigration laws being enforced. We can have public safety. But what President Trump is doing is something the American people will not tolerate and are very frustrated by. You ask about campaigns. I think a lot of people also are deeply focused on the fact that President Trump promised to get the cost of groceries down. He promised to get the cost of housing and health care down. He has failed on every count. His tariffs have been so chaotic that it's rose the prices of food and building housing and things that he promised he would address. We've also seen the fact that he's attacking health care, cutting Medicaid. Medicaid is a lifeline for people with disabilities, for our veterans, for our seniors, for families with kids. And so those cuts to health care are going to be very much front and center for a lot of candidates running across the country as well. So I think we can talk about our vision for America, but getting costs down, making sure people have access to health care, and not treating our neighbors so inhumanely will be all part of people's discussions over the next several months.
Okay. I want to go back in time a little bit to the Stock Act, one of the laws that you sponsored back in 2012. President Obama signed it into law. Stop trading on congressional knowledge. For my viewers who don't understand this, it seems incredible, but it is actually legal for members of Congress to go into a briefing with an intelligence agency or whatever, get a sense of what's going to happen, and then go out and sort of profit on it by trading on the stock market. You passed a law that said that that was not supposed to happen, and yet I understand you're now proposing an update because it didn't necessarily do what you intended.
So what these members of Congress are doing is illegal. It's called insider trading. They're not supposed to be buying and selling stocks based on non-public information. And so the purpose of passing the bill we did a decade ago was to say we want members of Congress to disclose every time they purchase a stock or sell a stock so that the SEC or the Department of Justice can do investigations for insider trading or any other type of fraud. Unfortunately, those investigations have not really happened. There's been few and far between investigations of insider trading. And we know that 1 in 3 members are actually buying and selling stock, but 1 in 9 members aren't actually disclosing those purchases like they're supposed to be. We also know, which is a big red flag, that members of Congress have a higher return rate on their stock portfolios, 17.5% higher return rate than the S&P 500. So, Errol, I do not think members of Congress are smarter. I think they're having access to non-public information. And this is true for the members of Congress, for the administration, across the board. Anybody who has these positions of power should not be able to buy and sell stocks because they just haven't been willing to follow the rules of disclosure.
So you're proposing something that would ban members and their spouses, their dependent children, trustees from owning, buying, really doing anything, right?
Yeah.
And they'd have to do it within 90 days of taking office,
Yes.
I think and then a pretty serious penalty. 10% of the value of the assets would be taken from them if they're found to be in violation. How's that looking? You're co-sponsoring this. I know there's some Republicans that are with you on this.
It's going well. There was a number of House members who wanted to have, it's called a discharge petition, which means they want to get a vote on this regardless of what the Speaker thinks. And I have a bipartisan co-sponsor in the Senate as well. So there's some momentum around this bill. This isn't the full bill that I would love. I would love to ban the president, the vice president, all senior members of Congress, all members of the Supreme Court, and higher courts from owning stocks as well. But this is where there's consensus in the House, and I have a bipartisan co-sponsor in the Senate. So if anything is possible this term, I think that would be what we could get done.
Okay. And the prediction markets make this a little more complicated, right? Where you can sort of bet on all kinds of different things and
we're
insiders.
We're going to need to look at that too.
Okay.
It's got the similar concerns. You know, the people bet about all sorts of things, whether you're going to attend something or not attend something. There's people who know whether you're going to go or not. And so the capacity for insider information is very, very significant. So we will have to look at that at some point.
I want to talk about something local. I understand you've gotten an investment of federal money for the Patterson houses. For my viewers who don't know, this is one of the largest NYCHA complexes. 15 buildings, most of them 13 stories tall, 1,800 apartments. This is on East 138th Street, around 3rd Avenue and Morris Avenue in the South Bronx.
So, Errol, you know affordable housing is one of the biggest issues facing the entire country and our entire state. And the NYCHA housing provides for safe, affordable housing for many families across New York. And so I have a new role on the Appropriations Committee, and my subcommittee is Housing and Transportation. So one of the investments we have in this year is $5 million for Patterson Homes. And so my hope is that this appropriation bill does go through in the next couple of weeks, and that we can fund affordable housing here in New York. If my bill that I wrote goes through, we'll have more money for affordable housing, millions of dollars for affordable housing in New York City, more than we've ever had, ever. And so, because that's what I prioritized getting this position. So I'm very hopeful. And we got to tour Patterson. It was great because they showed us this is what a unit looks like before it's been renovated. This is what it looks like after it's been renovated. And families deserve high quality, safe housing. And for a lot of people, this is a lifeline for seniors who don't have more than fixed income, for low wage workers who can't afford the going rate of an apartment in New York City. That's what NYCHA does. It meets the need of people who really don't have any other option.
Okay. In our last minute, let's talk a little bit of politics. You did not endorse Zohran Mamdani in the mayor's race. We didn't see you at his inauguration. Should we read anything into that?
No. Not only did I call the mayor and congratulate him, but we are working together. I'm very grateful that he and the governor are working together on child care, something that I care deeply about, and have been fighting to get that federal money that Trump just threatened to cut out of New York. He decided he was going to cut child care dollars, 10 billion child care dollars out of 5 Democratic states. And so my job is to push back on Trump, get those dollars back to New York, and support the governor and the mayor in their ambition to cover child care.
Okay. More than at almost any other time in his career, and I followed most of it, the senior senator, Chuck Schumer, facing a lot of political criticism, always from the right, but increasingly from the left as well. Well, what's going on? Is the Democratic Party and its leadership in some kind of a conversation about which way to go?
No. Senator Schumer is doing a great job for New York, as he always has done. And he's been formidable in the Senate, helping to raise resources and find candidates across the country who can win. And he has the best track record of doing that. So my job as the head of the Democratic Senatorial Campaign Committee is to do that work, to find candidates across the country, to raise the resources for them to fight. We have a map now that we never expected to have in the beginning of this cycle, largely because of Trump. The toxic agenda he's put forward of not getting costs down for groceries and housing and everyday goods, of not providing health care and cutting Medicaid, cutting personnel at Social Security and at the VA. That's the type of agenda that's creating a climate where Democrats can win. And so we have strong candidates across the country right now. And I think we can certainly put 2, 3, 4 seats in play. And if we can win 4 seats, we've just flipped the Senate.
Tell me which 4 we should be looking at.
So North Carolina, we have Roy Cooper, former governor, running. He's running against a slew of Republicans in a primary, B-listers. And then we have Janet Mills running in Maine, former governor, has not only stood up to President Trump, told him she'd see him in court at the White House, and then won. She's a fighter. And then Sherrod Brown, who barely lost Ohio last cycle, outperformed the top of the ticket by 7 points. Trump's not on the ticket. J.D. Vance isn't on the ticket. So that opens up Ohio in a very real way for him. He's got 100% name ID, and his opponent is an appointee who doesn't have it. And then last but not least, Mary Peltola just got into the race in Alaska. And Alaska's a purple state. And she's won statewide before. She's Native American. She understands Alaskans. And so I feel like this group of candidates are winning candidates because Trump's created a really toxic climate for Republicans. Republicans have not recruited their best. And we have really formidable candidates.
Okay, we're going to be following all of this. It sounds very exciting. You're in for a great big year, even though you personally are not on the ballot. Do you want us to put your name on the short list of people who are thinking about running again for president in 2028?
No, my job is to flip the Senate, and I'll be working on that this year, next year, and probably the next cycle. So.
Okay, we'll be watching. Thanks so much for coming by. Great to see you.
Thank you, Errol.
It is time now for a break. Coming up, we'll take a closer look at a special election to replace Mayor Mamdani in the State Assembly. That race is just 2 weeks away. Stay with us.
After 30 years of forecasting for New York, I've learned it takes a dedicated team to cover all the weather our city has to offer. As chief meteorologist at New York One, I'm honored to be able to help New Yorkers plan their day.
Morning, noon, or night, our team is here to bring you accurate forecasts you can count on, from severe weather updates to our Weather on the Ones. Watch the New York One weather experts with your Weather on the Ones on your TV and on the go with the Spectrum News app.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything. Movies, series, sports, reality, news.
Here's a look at today's top stories.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
And even more of your favorites with live TV. Stream across your devices and enjoy anywhere.
See you later.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable.
The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
My father was a New York City firefighter. My mission, like his, is to serve New Yorkers in a city that doesn't stop when the sun goes down. Being with New York One since the beginning, I'm now honored to join you even earlier each weeknight. Starting at 8 with New York Tonight, we'll explore the latest news developments, followed by New York One at 10 to wrap up your day. So join me each weeknight starting at 8 right here on New York One.
Welcome back to Inside City Hall. A special election for Mayor Zohran Mamdani's old Queens Assembly seat is scheduled for February 3rd. The Queens Democratic Party has given its ballot line to Democratic Socialist candidate Diana Moreno. She has Mamdani's support as well. But the election is still being contested by 2 other candidates, including a fellow Democratic Socialist who scored a key endorsement from an influential progressive. Our Dan Rivoli joins me now with the details on this race. Good evening, Dan.
Good evening, Errol. In recent races, often the Queens Democratic Party has fielded a candidate against a candidate from the Democratic Socialists of America. But for this special election, both sides went to support Diana Moreno, uniting after years of contesting different elections. And yet that didn't prevent other Democratic Socialists from entering the race. And there is another candidate who is getting the backing of retiring Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, a giant in progressive politics here in the city.
I am not running as an individual. I am running as part of the movement that brought Mayor Mamdani, our first South Asian and Muslim mayor, into City Hall.
This is Diana Moreno, candidate for state assembly. And not just any assembly seat, Mayor Zohran Mamdani's old assembly seat in Astoria in Long Island City. Moreno, who like Mamdani is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America, is running in the February 3rd special election in the 36th Assembly District with the support of DSA and Mamdani.
I see in her what I see in me.
In special elections for state legislature, party insiders picked the candidate, and the Queens Democratic Party picked Moreno. She'll also be on the Working Families Party line. But Moreno is getting a challenge from 2 fellow socialist candidates who petitioned their way onto the ballot. Rana Abdelhamid, here at a Democratic Club forum, is running on the Queens for All ballot line.
I've been organizing around mutual aid, supporting survivors of gender violence, supporting people who have experienced eviction, asylum seekers, immigrants in our communities.
And Mary Jo Bida, running on the People First Party ballot line.
We have uprooted the luxury condos rising when our communities, the struggling communities, do not have a roof over their head.
To prevent an upset, Moreno told New York One she's heeding advice from Mamdani to run like she's 10 points behind.
We're carrying a lot of the energy from his campaign, so that means that we have a very, very strong field operation with hundreds of volunteers that have already knocked on over 7,000 doors.
Moreno, mother of a 16-month-old child, said universal child care is her top priority if elected.
This is the year Governor Hochul has signaled her support. It's the year to pass it to every corner of New York City.
Meanwhile, Abdelhamid landed an endorsement from an influential progressive politician, retiring Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez.
We've organized alongside each other. We've advocated for safety for our neighbors together.
Abdelhamid says she can pull off an upset among the district's highly engaged voters.
They want a champion to represent them in Albany who has been doing the work in the district before, fighting for food security, fighting for our immigrant neighbors.
Early voting begins Saturday, January 24th, and again, Election Day, February 3rd, Errol.
So not a lot of time, not great weather when it comes to a street campaign, but it seems very spirited to have 3 candidates in here, even after the mayor has sort of pointed to his own personal favorite.
Exactly. In these special elections, the party insiders pick it, and for a state legislative seat, it's a very few members of the Democratic Party who make this decision, and often that candidate wins. It's not unheard of for an upset to happen, especially when another candidate gets another ballot line, or in this case, petitions their way onto the ballot. And to get a heavy hitter from a challenger, Rana Abdelhamid, getting the support of Nydia Velázquez, for voters who really pay attention and come out in these one-off elections, you know, that is a big sign of support. But also, Mayor Mamdani picking a candidate here, you know, it goes a long way in this district.
Okay. Thanks very much, Stan. Let's take a short break now. When we come back, we'll turn our attention back to the governor's state budget address. I'll be joined by Bill Hammond from the Empire Center with some reaction and some analysis. Stay with us.
We have so many ways to stay connected. A single touch can bring us closer to the families we love, the friends we know, and the city we share. And Spectrum helps us keep connected throughout the day, every day. Including more ways to watch New York One as a Spectrum Internet customer. Watch Spectrum News New York One on the Spectrum News app, available on all your favorite devices.
There's an international travel plan with Spectrum that was an additional $10 a month, as opposed to paying a ridiculous amount per day for roaming fees. This literally felt like my old phone carrier was reaching their hand into my wallet and just helping themselves to some of my cash. I like having no surprises when it comes to my cell phone bill. And with Spectrum, that's been the case. So it saved me a ton of money.
Real customers, real savings. To see how much you can save, visit spectrum.com/save.
Every day tells a new story. At Mornings on One, we're dedicated to bringing you the stories that matter most to start your day. With in-depth coverage of the day's news.
I'm Pat Kernan. Here are the stories we're following.
And weather updates every 10 minutes.
Tomorrow, some morning sunshine possible. Clouds take over.
It's our responsibility to get you the information you need before you head out the door. Mornings on One. Weekdays starting at 6 on the Spectrum News app. Free for Spectrum and Xfinity customers.
Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
We are back inside City Hall, turning back to Governor Hochul's budget address earlier today. The governor says that the state is facing a loss of a little more than $10 billion in federal funding this year. She is proposing in response that the loss be offset by extending New York's corporate tax rate for the next 3 years. But the governor is seeking to keep her promise to not raise income taxes, especially as she gears up for re-election. Joining me now to talk more about the governor's budget plan is Bill Hammond. He's a senior fellow at the Empire Center for Public Policy. Welcome to the program. Always good to see you.
It's good to see you, Errol.
Governor Hochul says it's not an austerity budget. And in fact, it's been a while since we saw an essentially flat budget like this. This is essentially the same number as last year with a percentage increase that's much less than the rate of inflation.
Yeah, I guess I want to challenge that right off the bat. I mean, if you're looking at the so-called all funds number, including federal aid, it's less than 1%. But the more relevant number is the part of the budget that's financed with state money, and that's going up 6 or 7%. So that's considerably more than the rate of inflation.
Okay, fair enough.
And I think part of that was based on the idea that there's been a $10 billion cut in federal aid. And I don't think that's accurate. I know that that's the number that was put out there today. but that's sort of based on an assumption that the essential plan drops to zero at some point in the next year ahead, and that's just not going to happen. I think there's kind of a question mark around the essential plan, but there will be billions of dollars in funding for it either way.
Well, let me ask you this. When the governor says that the state will have $17 billion over the next 2 years that were not anticipated, is that a result of New York's high tax rates, or is it that Wall Street had an especially good year? What's going on there, do you think?
A little both, actually. So in 2021, just before the governor took office, under Governor Cuomo, the state was recovering from the pandemic. It was kind of still in the pandemic, and it got just a gusher of federal aid. And on top of that, it did a tax surcharge on the highest earning income taxpayers. And then on top of that, the stock market took off. And so between those three things, we just got an unprecedented level of funding, some of which built up in the form of reserve funds. And we're still, that tax rate has remained in effect. It's generating extra billions of dollars a year. And so that's what really is driving what she referred to as the extra $17 billion in funding. It's mostly being driven by bonuses on Wall Street and the income taxes that those people pay.
The governor's budget includes, she says, no increase on the corporate or the personal income tax rate. Is that prudence or is that politics because this is an election year?
I guess I would call it prudence, but I would say there's also an asterisk on that because the corporate tax was due to decline this year, and she's canceling that part of that change in the corporate tax. She did a similar thing with the income tax last year. The income tax hikes that were done in 2021 were supposed to expire in 2027. She extended them through 2032. So it's true that there's no new taxes in her budget, but she's prolonging existing taxes that were due to expire.
Right. No new taxes. We're going to just extend the old ones. So on this question of tax hikes, the governor essentially says that none are needed because of the different things that you've just cited, that there's money in the reserve fund, there's money for other anticipated problems, including cuts from Washington, D.C. Do you think that will satisfy progressives in the legislature?
Oh, undoubtedly it will not. As for the past decade or so, as I've been paying attention, every year there's a group in the legislature that proposes a tax hike. The reason for proposing it changes from year to year. Sometimes it's because there's an economic crisis, or sometimes because they want to do more on education funding. This year, they want to do more on childcare. I think there's an ideological commitment to raising taxes on the wealthy, especially, and it's not so much about making ends meet. It's more about equity. It's more about redistributing wealth.
Other than universal childcare, my first glance at this, I know you've had more time to look at this and you look at it more thoroughly than I do, but the governor doesn't seem to be including many complicated programmatic or policy ideas, which often get jammed into the budget since it's a must-pass piece of legislation. Am I reading that wrong, or are we going to see something further down the road that looks more like regular legislative programmatic changes and less like a budget item?
He does have a couple of things in there. I mean, I guess I don't have an accounting that would say whether it's more or less than an average year. But she has two things that I consider important. One is a change to the State Environmental Quality Review Act, known as SECRA, which is sort of this umbrella policy for reviewing major development projects. She says she wants to rethink that and streamline it specifically around housing. And I think that's a good idea. And then what was the other one?
Auto insurance.
She wants to tackle auto insurance.
Right.
And that, she's picking a fight with the trial lawyers on that one, I think.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see the details of what she's proposing. I think that's a totally legitimate issue for her to tackle. I think there is a problem with fraud in auto insurance, and it's a good thing for the state to get rid of.
If she manages to cast that as an affordability issue for those of us who are tired of paying these inflated premiums, is it possible that they might be able to take on the trial lawyers? They're known as a pretty formidable group up there in Albany.
Yeah, well, there will probably have to be some kind of compromise, I'm guessing, just given the level of support that the trial lawyers have in the legislature. I mean, I think you were alluding before to the idea that, you know, she's not including as many substantive issues, non-budget issues in her budget bill, and technically she probably shouldn't be doing that. I mean, that's not what a budget is for. She's allowed to do it. It's legal. It became kind of a tradition during Andrew Cuomo's administration because he liked the leverage it gave him. He has the governor, whether it's Cuomo or Hochul, has more leverage in the context of budget discussions. But, you know, in a way, it's kind of cutting the knees out under the legislature. They should be more involved in policymaking legislation, and that should technically be outside of the budget.
And then finally, Bill, the governor called for something like $300 million in sort of broadly defined efficiencies within government. Do you have any places where you think they might want to start looking? This is always a point of great contention within any given agency, but is that number realistic? And if so, where should they start looking for efficiencies?
So there's almost nowhere you could look where they couldn't find efficiencies. I mean, I think the state, like the city, has a history of adding new programs on top of old ones and never really rethinking the old ones. And also layering on extraneous requirements. You know, you say there's a need for more mass transit, but then you say, when we do the mass transit, we have to do it with prevailing wage, and we have to, you know, fix the climate while we're at it. And those extraneous requirements are the definition of inefficiency. But I think maybe the subtext of your question is she going to get any of it? I mean, I think that's kind of a placeholder. Like, you know, I'd love to get efficiencies if I can, but, you know, that remains to be worked out with the legislature, and the legislature will just say no, and it won't happen. That seems to be the most likely outcome.
Okay, very interesting. We're at the start of a long road from here to April 1st. Thanks so much for getting us started.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay, that is going to do it for tonight's show. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great evening. We'll see you next time inside City Hall.
And that's a look at some of what's in the papers this morning. You've done with the sports section.
Today's story is about the latest chapter for a beloved local business.
It's a beautiful day with temperatures in the 60s, but showers are expected in the next hour.
In a city that's always on the go, it's important to stop to hear the stories that connect us.
The news that matters to New Yorkers. That's what brings us together. That's Mornings on One.
Weekdays starting at 6.
Your entertainment the way you want it. With Spectrum TV, all these streaming apps are included at no extra cost. So you can watch anything.
Hey, brother, be careful.
Movies.
I've got this condition where I don't feel pain.
You're a superhero.
No. Series.
There was another murder in the building.
Sports. Reality.
Here's to a summer you'll never forget.
News.
Here's a look at today's top story.
Exclusive originals.
We await your orders.
Even more of your favorites with live TV.
Welcome into First Take.
Stream across your devices and watch anywhere. At home or out and about. It's the entertainment experience you've been waiting for. Streaming apps included at no extra cost.
Just got that, pal. Get a good look.
With live TV and on demand. All together, all in one place for you to enjoy.
It's whatever kind of adventure we want it to be.
Get it all with Spectrum TV.
There's nothing quite like the feeling of going to the theater. Onstage celebrates that excitement every week by taking you behind the scenes with the